Hello everyone, my name's Paul Maxwell Walters. I run the Testing Rants Twitter and stream, Twitch live stream, where I basically go through programming examples, software testing, security, test automation. Right now I've been doing a series on Postman. And the requests. These are API testing tools. So the idea is that I would concentrate on various examples, online examples on how to test certain APIs, and this would be a chance to basically go through various exercises, partly so I can learn myself how to use how to do API testing, which is a particularly important skill in the field I'm in, and hopefully I can, you can go through this particular learning experience and learn something for yourselves. API testing is a particularly important area in programming and in software testing. It's quite high demand. I'll be using a tool called Postman initially. I was originally going to move on to a different tool called Requests. However, I had some of the people who watched my previous stream and who watched and who saw the videos that I posted afterwards said that they couldn't see a lot of the stream. They couldn't see the text. They didn't get much out of it. So I have decided to cover a slightly different example, in a way, a more easy example. I've done a couple of changes. First of all, my text is larger. So for 1280 by 720, you should be able to read it better. And that includes the header and the body. There's a couple of things I might just have to do to change the stream slightly. And then I'll just carry on with the learning experience, and I'll take you through the various tools I'm using. Let me just go back to this for a minute. All I'm just doing is I'm just changing some of the Twitch parameters that you see here. I'm just changing some of those. I'll also post on Twitter that I'm on here, which I haven't done yet. I currently have a bit of a neck problem, so I don't know how long I'm going to do the stream for. I'll do it for as long as I can, get through as much as I can. I hope it lasts at least about an hour and a half. As I said before, this is not really a tutorial as such. I'll be referencing various examples that I'll be using, the API that I'm using, and the actual examples that I'm learning from. I won't be treating this though as a as if I'm some sort of expert and I'm teaching everyone how to do it. This is very much about you going along with the learning experience I'm having. In the meantime, I will also be monitoring the chat, so if anybody wants to contact me that way, be my guest. Please let me know as well if there are problems with the stream. I've set the stream as low as I can at 500 kilobits per second because I'm having some rather awful internet problems where I am. If you're having problems hearing me, or if it's just too choppy, please let me know. What I will do, and I've done this before, is that I have an associated YouTube account, and also I upload, even within my Twitch account, I upload the videos afterwards, which should not have the similar, they should not have the same sort of performance problems. So if I can't get this to work, what I'll do is I'll upload the video afterwards, and you can use that for your learning experience. Okay, shall I get started? The resources I am using for this particular test, I'm using an API. I'm using a different API to what I was using previously, the football API. This one here is quite cool, actually. It's an API that's used by the MAAS Curiosity Probe. Well, it shows weather data that's retrieved from the MAAS Curiosity Probe. And this is the this is our endpoint they've created. If I execute it, you can get the latest weather data on Mars, well, at least where that probe is. Execute. I don't know if this is real time or if this is just data pulled from the past. So what I've done, you can do this through curl if you want. You know, if you're using like bash shell or something, or you can just simply go to the request URL. Then you get a server response, which is server 200 is usually a successful response. And then you'll get data like this, which has status 200, of course, sol 2074, season 7, month 7, minimum temp, max temp, sunny, sunrise, sunset, minus 75, 75 Celsius, Port of Spain. So this helps to build interactive applications with the data that was transmitted from the Curiosity rover. And you can pull in specific sols. I'm not going to try this because I don't really understand how this works or what they mean by a sol. However, I'll just carry on, see what we get. And for examples, I was contacted during the week by Danny Dayton, who's a fellow tester, and he writes some excellent resources on how to use Postman, which is a tool I'm using for writing my API tests. You can also use it to write, REST APIs as well. I won't be doing that this time. He has an excellent set of GitHub resources at github.com/Danny Dayton /all-things-postman, where he has a lot of really good tutorials. He doesn't do it with this particular API. He does it with another one that was created for testing purposes by another tester, Wittringham. And basically, this is far better than I will do. But for those of you who don't particularly like going through written examples, if you follow me, I'll go through some adapted versions of these. I'll just go back, put this back over there. Okay, I shall carry on. So, my original examples in the Brazilian League for this API.football-data.org use a particular syntax that's, how should I say, the more modern. They're pm.test or I suppose methods class, and here you write you write pm.test, and it takes in parameters, one of them being the name of the test, another one being, and the next one being a function, and the function contains your assertion or whatever JavaScript code you want to run. So here, for example, I'll use an example. It's not a set value for key. I'll use a more basic example. Here, use this one here, and it loads what's called a pm.response. You can call this, which is the response of your API call. You can see it in the body here and in the headers. So this tests the headers. So this is your response header. This is what happens when you call this. You can just put this into a browser. So if I put this in a browser, oh god, I'll get the. This is an API that contains football competitions throughout the world, and this will retrieve the various bits of data for the Premier League, its current match day, number of match days, and other URLs, of course. Like, for example, I can look at the fixtures and the league table. So I can use that to load the league table. And there you go. That's the top Man City, second Man United, Spurs, Liverpool, etc. I went through this a bit last week in the second and third videos. So this particular response syntax uses a behavior-driven development framework called Chai. And if you go to chai.js.com, you can see the kind of commands it uses. So what you do, so this assertion, they call it an assertion, where you check, which returns pass if it, oh sorry, it returns a pass if this property is fulfilled. So if there's no property B in there, it will return pass, or shall I say true, and it returns false if it fails. And the way the assertion is set up, any return false phrases is seen as an error or a failure in the test. True is obviously a pass, and it carries on to the next test. But it basically, you can create assertions from to not have, to be, and to have, to not have, to equal, to not equal. You can have nested properties in there too. You can look at orders. You can test any individual ones against their existence in a list, or in this case, a dictionary type object. One thing to say is I'm fairly new to JavaScript. I'm getting better. There's still quite a bit for me to learn. So this is not going to be a guide to JavaScript by any means. All right, shall I carry on? Okay, so going through a few examples that have been posted already, in extending our tests, which is, and this will be covering a certain amount of old ground, but in a different way, using a slightly different syntax. What I want to do is test the status code. Now, the status code will be 200. This is in the response. It's also written here as well within the body, but I won't be testing that specifically now. The status code can be of the response. It's 200 if it's deemed okay, I see, if it's correct. And there are various different status codes, 4, 500, etc. If there's an internal server error or some failure. So I shall just carry on. So initially, in my previous examples, I used the way that was used in the JavaScript tutorial, in the Postman tutorials themselves. So here, I'd actually write out the function this way, which is old-style JavaScript. Another way to do it, as shown in the examples by Danny Dayton, is to write it in a BDD. Sorry, not in a BDD, in a Lambda syntax, sort of ES version 6 type way. So if I do pm.test, so I write 200 status code 200. And you write in this case this sort of Lambda expression. And if I execute, so I've taken something that initially looked that was quite long, went over 2 lines. In a way, it's probably easy to read in the old style declarative function, putting all your text inside an anonymous function body. Here, essentially, it's the same thing. It's an anonymous function, but it's called using a Lambda expression, which is similar to how it is in other languages, to be honest. So let me just say there's no need. There probably is no reason for me to write a comment because it just reflects what's in the test name. But it's just good practice. There you go. Status code 200. Let's say if I do a failing test. I don't know what 300 is actually. I have to check. This will fail if it's not 300. And of course it's not, because it's returning 200 because the actual body is being returned with the correct status. The API response has no problems with it. So this is a bit more, I suppose this is a bit more succinct. There's another way of doing it, which Danny points out in his examples. Let me just put this in here. One of the things I've done since the last live stream is to make the text a bit bigger. So hopefully you can see this more easily. Another way to do it that he points out is pm.test. The benefit of this is if you don't remember your status codes, and I'm probably a bit crap at this myself. pm.response to have status. Okay. So let me just write status okay. And what this does is this calls this this request endpoint, turns the response, and okay, all right, has to be capital. There you go, status code 200, same thing. Now, the other slightly more BDD approach, and this is due to a rule that's defined within Postman. This is a try.js type approach, is to write well, it's another type of status okay. pm.test. This seems to be another way of doing it. It's quite, I suppose if you're doing try.js, this is quite simple. Didn't occur to me at the time, to be honest. Response to be .ok. If we execute that, so here we're not doing a pm.expect, so we're not writing an explicit assertion. Sorry, just give me a second, please. Actually, I'll do it here. I'm just doing one thing before I can continue with the next example. Give me a second, please. Okay. Okay, shall I carry on? So the fourth example is similar to exactly the same as what I did in previous weeks, which is to wrap everything in a pm.expects assertion. So that'd be pm test. These are all examples that you can see in extending our test, this URL above. So I can't claim any credit for this, of course, apart from its diffusion, I suppose. It is particularly cold here in Sydney at the moment, so I'm in the rather exotic position of wearing an England cricket shirt and an England football scarf. It's probably a fairly strange combination. I am originally from the UK. Grew up in England, in the north of England, in a county called Halifax. Sorry, in a county called West Yorkshire, a town called Halifax. Okay, here we go. So I've wrapped this inside the pm.expect response code. If I've actually specified the to have, then I don't need to have this. And if I did, I could probably do the same thing with pm.test. In these executing these API tests. Or even just no response code. I wonder if this works actually. I assume it will, because the other ones above do. Unless code doesn't support. Oh, okay, that. Unless code doesn't support to and equal afterwards. But I realise what I've done there. I've missed out there. Okay, so maybe this works. I don't know. I'll have to check. Alright, so pm.response.code must just simply be a property. Single value doesn't actually have any support any functions within it. So forget that. Danny points out that there are various other rules that can be displayed, that can be selected from pm.response.2.b. So I'll just copy these and I will execute them. You can have checks that checks for 100 states. I've just taken this straight from his tutorial. Checks for all the 100 status codes. To be.success checks for 200, which is what I've done here. Except to, let me just close this for a minute. So OK is status code must be 200. Accepted is status code must be 202. Bad request as well. Unauthorized. So these are all parameters you can test against, depending on what you. If you want to put a test to that raises an error, or sorry, that flags true if there's anything wrong with your API, then you could probably do it this way. However, it might just be better to test that it's false if it's not. Test that it's wrong, or to get a failing response by using 2.b.ok, and then doing additional manual tests to determine exactly what's wrong. I don't know if you're doing logging. If you're writing and you want to know the exact problem, then I suppose this would be extremely useful. Or if you're trying to simulate a failure. Some ones which are equally useful are these, which are status code 403, which is forbidden. Testing if it's not found, which is 404, of course, the famous not found error. And if you're looking for rate limited, I'm not sure what rate limited means actually. Checking if it's 429. Answers on a postcard. So let's have a look at the way that he's processing their requests that we test for items in the headers. We did a bit of I did a bit of writing of testing headers in my last video, and we'll just go through these again. So here we have connection, keep alive, content length, content type, date. Trace ID. Request. We'll just do connection and content length, content type, just to demonstrate. Obviously, there'll be more. So I'm sure that other APIs have much more elaborate headers. And this is the response, of course. This one has been removed now, so when I run it again, you shouldn't see that. Let's say, here's another example that he puts, which I think is very useful. Let's say I'm just testing one of these. I know the response kill will not equal 300. All right, I know the other ones will fail too. Will not equal 200. Okay, I know the other ones will fail too. We'll forget this for the moment. So this, I'm just setting it to this, just to demonstrate that this will fail. This particular test out of the 4 will fail. I've just changed the name as well. So a status code of 300 is failing, of course, which is what we expect. Now, let's say I want to skip this. This test isn't working. Oh, this test is not valid, or it's causing my suite to fail, or something like that, or it's some incomplete development, for instance. What I can do is I can do skip, which means that this will be omitted. This is something I hadn't seen before, actually. It's I only saw it in Danny's documentation. As you can see, it's been skipped. And it's reported as skipped in the test results. I'll change it back. Okay, another example is content type header is the headers, and I'll do that now. Danny's particular way of doing it is to do, he gives two examples. He does want to show that a header exists, or to show that a header has a specific value. So we'll do content. We'll do connection. And he'll write response using this BDD approach to have header connection application.json. Oh, sorry, /JSON, which is what it says here, of course. Sorry, keep alive. Reading the wrong thing. You see, it's worked. However, let me just change the naming, because that doesn't tell us anything really. Oh, I've done something wrong. I know what I've done. I've copied and pasted it such that the double quotes are in the wrong place. JavaScript doesn't actually distinguish much between single and double quotes, unlike other languages. You couldn't get away with that saying C# or even Java, I think. So another way which, so this tests for this makes this assertion that connection equals keep alive, and because that's true, it returns true. No, so I'm going to just change this to something else. This should fail. There you go. Once it's looking for keep alive, but only got keep alive, so that's fine. If I want, as I showed you before, if you want to omit this, type skip, and that will just omit this test entirely. There you go. That's the first of Danny's two examples. The second one is largely the same as the ones I did last week, which is pm.expect, writing everything inside an expect. Oh, he's done it that's the way that's in the text. The other example he's done is a response time. It's not this one, sorry, I misread it. So his next example is response time less than 200. It's the same one I did last week. So response time under 200 milliseconds. Sorry, I misread it. So pm.expect, and with it, and as its parameters, pm.response time. You have two. It won't be because the internet's bloody slow where I am, but below 200. There you go. So it's stupidly high at the moment because my internet is abominable. Hope you'll listen to this, Malcolm Turnbull, your stupid NBN. Sorry, I haven't even got NBN yet because they're still digging up my street to put it in. If I set this to an arbitrarily huge value, yep, it's correct. Let me just change this name to be more, well, to be frankly correct, because right now it's pointing to a different test. Should change the naming. So right now it takes, what, 6 seconds to load an API response? Just abominable. Fucking shite. Now, in terms of checking the actual booking data, Danny's approach is a bit similar to what I did before. As far as you load your response.json into a variable, but then after that, he demonstrates something which I didn't know, which is that you can specify the actual parameter name. So what he does in his example is that if you have a response which is in its first level, you have key value pairs, which are first name, last name, total price, deposit paid, booking dates.checkin. You can actually use this to specify your first and second level. You can just write them straight into your write the names of the actual keys directly as properties directly in your expect parameter. I didn't know that. I'll try it now. I chose a specific example of the MAAS probe because it has a very, very simple response, which allows me to test this without too much effort. So, all right. His particular examples allow me to test the type of response, the type of object that's returned. In which case, if it's a string. Another one is to test it, test against a regular expression, and another one is to actually check the value. So, and using this try syntax. So I'll have a go with these. So what I'll do is Next test will be season is a string. So pm.test so I'm using the kind of lambda way of writing it, the ES6 way of writing it, of writing your function, your anonymous function. When it gets to this, when everything goes on separate lines, which I'll demonstrate shortly, or when you have a multi-line function, that negates the difference between that and, frankly. However, which is the old style pre-ES6 way of defining anonymous functions in JavaScript. But I'll keep it like this because I actually prefer it. It's similar to other languages. I have a soft spot for it. So what I'll do is as I did last week, I'll specify a variable called JSON data. Equals pm.response.json. And just to show you what it looks like, if I do console log JSON data, I open up the Postman console and I execute this. There's the object. There's the set of key value pairs that constitute the response. So what I'll do is I'll do pm.expect. I'll get rid of this for the moment because I don't need it. JSON for what is it? Season to be and then you write which is of course so that what that means is this line, this key value pair season value, this value here is a string. And this should return true unless I've done it wrong. It has, season is a string. So what happens if I decide to do this, use another function, another type of variable, another type, data type if I try number. Because JavaScript has numbers and strings, this should return an error, unless I'm doing it wrong. See? Insertion expects the month name to be a number, month 7 is not. I assume that because that's the same with undefined, null, or okay, yep. So string, all good. What I'm going to do in future runs is set this to skip because I think it's a rather pointless test. season is a string. That's fine. Now, what I'll do is another test. Determine that to run it, execute a regular expression on it. This involves me remembering season is five letters, then number, then space, then number. Just expand these. So what I might do is, because I'll just take this out, put this at the top, because I'll be calling it more than once, and I'll get rid of that. So pm.expect, and there is actually a command called match in the Chai.js framework. Data.season 2, and it's called toMatch. And then you put your regular expression in there. So it'll be something like, if I wanted to, if it always returns something like month space 7, it'll be something like that's a start S. These are regular expressions. I'm not great at them, to be honest, but I know enough, to get by. Space D. I only want one number, so it'll be that. Oh, that's fine, actually. And then $sign at the end, which means end of string, which means that the string only contains these. Oh, where have I gone wrong? Shouldn't have to be this. Unless I've got the space wrong. No. So I'm just Googling something from it. I have a cheat sheet for regular expressions. Oh, I know what it is. I'm getting my words and spaces confused. So that's W, and then that will be S. So /S is a space, or white space. And /w is text. That's what I forgot. That's a string. Or a word, shall I say. That's how they define it. Let's see if this works. And there it was for a second, think I'd gone mad. So what happens if I set this to, there's two numbers. So this basically is 5 letters that make up a word, space, space, and then 2 digits. We know there's only 1 digit in this response, but I'm just running it to see that it fails. There you go. I'll just change it back. Alright, fine, excellent. So that's how you test for regular expressions in a in the body of a response. In Postman. Okay, the next one is the equal. So PM test. So I want to show that season equals match month 7. Probably not a great test to run if this number keeps incrementing. Just doing it really for demonstration purposes. So pm.expect JSON data.season to equal, and then the text will be month 7. Or if you have a way of calculating the month, you can just stick the value in there. You can just calculate and put the function in, the function response in, but I think this serves its purpose as a tool to demonstrate assertions. Yeah, I realize I just spelled this wrong. No, it's pm.expect. I don't know what. That's the second time I've written expected instead of expect. I don't know what I'm going on. What's going on there? I've got expect on the brain, maybe. Oh, I have 3 viewers. Welcome. 4 viewers. Welcome. Thanks for coming on. If you're new, basically what I'm doing is I'm using a tool called Postman to write API tests, automated API tests against a particular API which returns weather data from Mars. So if I'll just show you this. This is the API I'm testing against. The MAAS2 API, it's a REST API which takes weather that was transmitted from the Curiosity rover on Mars, and you can go to this link, maas2.jinx.com, and then you can just test it yourself and look at the response. You can clear it, execute it. That's your weather data. I don't know if this is specimen data or if this is real. Still, it serves a purpose, so in terms of what I'm demonstrating. and what I'm learning. This is just my learning experience. I'm using, I'm making reference to, in any case, a GitHub, a repository which contains a bunch of examples on how to use Postman to do certain tests. It's done by Danny Dainton, and I'll put a link after that. I'll put a link to his repository at the end of this. So Danny also makes an example of using conditionals to check that the existence of one of these, and if they exist, actually do a test against a particular item in the response. So what I'll do is I'll do sunrise. I'm getting pop-ups from my broadcaster all the time saying that my CPU is very high, or that my CPU usage is very high. Thanks for that, but I'm not experiencing any particular performance problems at the moment, at least in terms of my execution. Please let me know if there are any problems in the feed. My internet is not great at the moment. I have to deeply and humbly apologize for that. So the next one is sunrise. What I'm going to do is check for the existence of sunrise, and then if it exists, I'll check the actual value. The first one I'll do is the if statement, because that makes I think that's more easy. I mean, I can do other types of conditionals, but this is probably the most easy to read, I think. So what he does is he uses a command called what he does is he compares the response, a particular attribute here, say season, to undefined. If it's undefined, it means it's not present. Season was never included, or sunrise was never included. So here it'll be if, just an if statement, if pm.response.sunrise I'm sorry, I'll do if JSON data .sunrise defined. Now this is not particularly very difficult programming. I say this and I'll probably cock it up now. pm.test.skip sunrise equals not 5:18 5:18 in the morning. You don't obviously want that to run, if it's if there's no actual attribute called sunrise. And then you do. The way it's been demonstrated is you write this, and that just simply returns nothing. Else PM. Well, no, I'll just copy this. Take the skip off it. So skip is to miss a test out entirely, which obviously you would do if sunrise isn't present. And it's known not to be present in some cases. i.e. if its lack of inclusion is not known, is not necessarily an error. Like there are certain circumstances where you wouldn't display return the sunrise. So what we do then is just write pm.expect pm.response.json. Sorry, no, what am I doing? JSON data. I've already put. You see, the reason why I cross that out is because here at the top, I've taken the JSON response and put it into a file called JSON data. Sorry, not a file, a variable called JSON data. And I don't want to keep calling JSON data pm.response.json every time, because that would be stupid and a rather pointless function call. Export JSON data dot sunrise, and then to be actually to equal, what's it, 518. I'll put 518 there, and I'll click send. Has a look. Yep. Sunrise equals 518. If I change this to some, let's say I want to test the undefined, how undefined might work. So I'm going to change this to another parameter, which I know doesn't exist. I'll click bunrise. I know there's no parameter there called bunrise. And I know this should just skip. Seems I've made an error. And there you go. It skipped bunrise equals 518. So let me change it back, because obviously that's just wrong. See, I don't like this sort of weird scrolling stuff that the Postman does. and as you can see, sunrise 5:18. I've been told I achieved 7 achievements in Twitch. I'll have to find out how useful they actually are. I'm actually going to quit. I'm actually going to go to end this there. I'll do another Twitch session where I move on to requests. There's a lot more to learn about Postman, but I promised I would move on to another tool, or actually move on to other types of programming. So I'll do that in my next stream, which I hope will be tomorrow. I'll be uploading this to Twitch under the video section, under testing rants, and I'll also be uploading it to my YouTube. So if you search my proper name, Paul Maxwell Walters, on YouTube, you'll see these videos posted. All the previous live streams, all but one of them have been done in Postman. The other one's gaming stream, which I did Red Alert, the OpenRA version. Anyway, I may do another one tonight if I have time, but it's already 1 in the morning, so I think I might give it a miss. And also I've got a bad neck pain. Alright, thank you very much. Have a good night.